The 2024 NASCAR season has been absolutely insane. We've seen some of the closest finishes in NASCAR history, so close that they actually announced the wrong winner on TV. We've seen drivers modify their racing gear in order to go faster, we've seen fights, family members getting banned, drivers being instructed to wreck their competitors to win, and the last driver in the point standings getting a win and making the playoffs. But it all started back in February at Daytona 500 pole qualifying. Winning the pole for the Daytona 500 is a badge of honor, and Joey Logano was able to best the field and capture his first career Daytona 500 pole. The next week at Atlanta, he backed up the performance by qualifying second. However, the next week at Las Vegas, NASCAR announced they were fining Logano $10,000 for violating NASCAR's safety code. They had discovered that Logano had customized his left-hand glove to have webbing between every finger. Logano had the glove altered in order to place his hand out the window and block air from flowing into the car and making him go faster. Ultimately, Logano wasn't able to capitalize on his qualifying performance in Atlanta, a race that went on to produce the third closest finish in NASCAR history when Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch raced 3 wide for the entire last lap, in a finish that was too close to call from the broadcast. It was eventually determined that Suarez won the race by 0.003 seconds. But that wasn't even the closest finish of the season, because a few weeks later at Kansas, Chris Buescher took the white flag with Larson in his rearview mirror. By the time they reached turn 3, Kyle Larson got to Buescher and they remained side by side, coming to the finish line together in a finish that was so close, the announcers declared Buescher the winner.
Crashed together, I believe Buescher. I think you're right, it's so close.
And his team began to celebrate, only to find out minutes later that Larson actually crossed the line first and was awarded his second win of the season. The misery would continue for Buescher the next week at Darlington, when he was leading late in the race, only to have Tyler Reddick make contact with him, battling for the lead, causing flat tires on both cars, resulting in Buescher's teammate and car owner Brad Keselowski to pass them both for the win. Buescher would finally find victory lane 4 months later in another dramatic finish at the playoff race at Watkins Glen, when sports car superstar Shane Van Gisbergen made an uncharacteristic mistake by hitting the wall on the last lap of the race, giving Buescher just enough room to bully his way by and take the W. However, since Buescher wasn't able to win a race in the regular season and didn't make the playoffs, he wasn't eligible to win the championship, so the win didn't really count for anything. And to make matters worse, the driver who took his spot in the playoffs was statistically one of the worst full-time drivers in recent memory. Harrison Burton rolled into the second last race of the regular season, having finished inside of the top 20 just 5 times in 25 races. He had 1 top 10 all season and an average finish of 26.1, the worst among full-time drivers. The race was chaotic, with almost every single car in the field in a wreck at some point. Kyle Busch gained the lead at the white flag, and with so many cars left running, it seemed like Busch would cruise to victory lane. Instead, Burton got a huge push on the backstretch from Parker Retzlaff, who was specifically told not to push the Ford of Harrison Burton to the win, and to instead allow the Chevy of Kyle Busch to take victory lane. Retzlaff elected to try to win the race for himself, allowing Burton's Ford to pull alongside and ultimately pass Busch. And due to NASCAR's win and in playoff system, Burton, the driver with the worst stats in the series, stole Chris Buescher's playoff spot, all while Burton's father Jeff watched from the commentary booth.
Busch goes low, Burton blocks, he gets back up, comes to the line. Jeff, your little boy, has done it. Harrison Burton wins in Daytona and does what his uncle and dad did.
The win also served to keep Kyle Busch out of the playoffs, who was still recovering from the hook he ate from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at the 2024 All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, an exhibition race that doesn't count towards the regular season points. Stenhouse Jr. made just 2 laps before exiting due to damage from contact with Busch. 2 hours later, after the race ended, Stenhouse was waiting at Busch's hauler, and Stenhouse Jr. connected with a punch, starting a huge brawl that involved Stenhouse Jr.'s father, Ricky Stenhouse Sr., who jumped in and threw a punch at Busch.
Dad! Hey, get my dad! Somebody hit me, Dad! Hey!
Sr. was ultimately suspended by NASCAR for his involvement, with his son Stenhouse Jr. quipping, "He just likes to fight."
Dad likes to fight.
He's a dirt racer, sprint car guy.
Dirt racer from, back home.
But you're lame. Get my dad.
Kyle Busch's teammate Austin Dillon also wasn't able to avoid controversy with Stenhouse this year. Dillon was having a very mediocre season going into the Olympic break. Dillon had managed to finish in the top 10 just twice and had finished outside the top 20 in 16 of the 22 races before the series took a month off. However, in the first race back from the break, Dillon was suddenly dominant. He was the fastest car in practice, qualified 6th, and took the lead of the race with 28 laps to go and drove it to a 2.5 second lead. With just 3 laps left in the race, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ryan Preece crashed right in front of Dillon and sent the race into overtime. When the race got back underway, Joey Logano, with presumably normal gloves, schooled Dillon on the restart and took the lead with relative ease. Dillon, knowing this was likely his only shot to make it into the playoffs, just sent it. He dove in, spun Logano, allowing Denny Hamlin to drive underneath them both. Dillon made contact with Hamlin as well, sent him into the wall, and Dillon won the race.
Dillon's gonna win it at the line!
Both Logano and Hamlin were furious with Dillon and urged NASCAR to take action, who, after uncovering radio from Dillon's team encouraging him to wreck the others to win, stripped Dillon of his playoff eligibility.
Keep coming down, run him down, back in, come on, back in! Oh yeah, hell yeah.
But despite all the carnage, chaos, and unpredictability, the most insane race of the season happened all the way back in March at the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. The race weekend started off fairly normal, with Ryan Blaney getting the pole. However, due to a combination of the track surface and cold temperatures, tires started to wear at an unprecedented rate. They ended up having to slow their pace up to 3 seconds a lap just to avoid blowing their tires, which caused the lead to change a NASCAR short track record 54 times. Ultimately, series veteran Denny Hamlin was able to manage the tires the best, and he drove to victory lane for his first win of the season. But 5 months later, on August 22nd, he was fined $100,000 with a 75-point penalty after Toyota officials admitted they had disassembled Hamlin's engine from Bristol, removing the NASCAR-imposed seals before the engine could be presented to NASCAR for inspection. The penalty resulted in Hamlin losing the regular season point title to the car he owns with NBA legend Michael Jordan, driven by Tyler Reddick, who clinched the regular season in a race where he admitted to puking and shitting himself. NASCAR is insane.